Troops, here we are. We're live. We've just been extended in the UK. We've got another 3 weeks staring at our four walls. I can't wait because it gives me loads of opportunities to speak to amazing people. I've done my daily shop, zombie apocalypse, Walking Dead. I even had to kill someone with a crossbow. I hope that's okay, but they were going for milk and I needed it more. So we welcome to the podcast. She's got an awesome name. She's got an awesome story. She could have been a cowboy, but she's from the Sunshine State. It's Shar Weil. How are you doing?
I'm good, John. Thanks for having me.
As an American living in the UK, how long have you lived here, and what things do you love about the UK?
Oh, good question. I moved here when I was 14, and can I just have it be said?
Yeah.
I'm honored to be your first female American guest on the
Brilliant.
podcast. I moved here when I was 14 with family.
Yeah.
Had absolutely zero choice in the matter. So was dragged kicking and screaming from Southern California. I grew up in Newport Beach. So
Nice.
Moving to the butthole of Lancashire was not my ideal move, shall we say. So it did take me about 10 years to acclimatize to the culture shock. I still haven't got used to the weather, I'm not going to lie. But I absolutely have a wonderful life here. I have a huge amount of family here. My mom was born in Liverpool.
Yeah.
I don't hold it against her. And her family, she comes from a big Irish family.
Yeah.
And I have tons and tons of aunts, uncles, cousins all over the place, all over the country. So I have a really nice family base here. What do I love about it here? Really, I love my family. I love the countryside probably the most of anything. I love getting out in the hills, hiking.
Yeah.
North Wales, the lakes, really blessed to have those kind of on my doorstep. And you know, I love the NHS. I know that sounds a little bit, maybe it's kind of on point at the moment. But if I was to look at my life growing up in Southern California and then look at the life that I've built here in the UK, I'm still the same person. My core values are relatively the same, although I've been through a lot in those years and I've learned a lot and grown a lot.
Yeah.
You know, environmentally, as far as the sunshine and the scenery and all that kind of stuff, and maybe the lifestyle, Southern California fits my personality. It definitely still feels like home to me. But in this country, I have a connection to nature that I didn't have over there, because I think maybe just because it's so vast over there.
Yeah.
And I did live by the ocean, so it took me a couple of hours to get up into the mountains.
Have you ever been to Blackpool?
I have.
I
have.
How does that compare to California?
It does. It's not comparable. It's really not comparable.
No.
I mean, if I do go over that way, I tend to hit Lytham more often than Blackpool. But yeah, I do remember the first time I went to Blackpool as a teenager, and my friends being like, "Oh my God, this place is amazing! Like, you're gonna love it." And I got there and I was like, "Are you having me on?" Like, I was 20 minutes from Disneyland. That's where I grew up. 20 minutes from the original Disneyland. An hour and 20 minutes from Six Flags Magic Mountain. That had like the biggest roller coasters in the world, you know. Yeah. So I got there and they had, what's that is it Mouse Trap or something? What's that one where like it's Death made trap. Of wood? Yeah, Death Trap. Yeah, it looks like made of wood and people like they're gonna fall out of it every time. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's scary. They'll never make a Real Housewives of Blackpool. That'll never.
Oh my God, I would watch that. I would actually watch that.
Yeah, that would never be a thing. Why when you say you got forced over here for the move?
Yes.
How come? What was the force?
So obviously my mom is from here.
Yeah.
she was actually a dentist and an oral surgeon. So she, before she met my dad and moved to America, she was a Max Fax oral surgeon in Newcastle.
Upon Tyne, or?
Upon Tyne, yes.
Yeah.
Up in the northeast. And she met my dad, who in the Isle of Man. My dad was a MotoGP and TT racer.
Oh, smart. Nice.
My mom was over in the Isle of Man playing hockey, and I believe my dad was perving on the hockey players while he was in the TT races. And my mom got injured, and he kind of like came to her rescue and took her to the hospital. And then 3 weeks later, she moved to California and got married to him.
Wow, so, your dad's got some game, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think he was quite the ladies' man. Very charismatic. My dad was a little like Trump. You either loved him or you hated him.
Please tell me you had better hair.
I'd like to tell you he had better hair, but he 100% did not.
Wow.
And in fact, at one point, pretty sure he had a really dodgy ponytail, like as he was balding. You know, it was horrific. His dress sense left a lot to be desired. In fact, I can still laugh about it now. It was hideous. So yeah, that's how they met, and they moved to California. And I have an older brother and sister who are quite a lot older than me. They're like 10, 11 years older than me. Then I was born, and my little sister was born. She's 3 years younger. And then they divorced when I was like 7.
Right.
And we lived in Newport Beach, California, which is supposed to liken it to something in England would be like living in Chelsea, Kensington, somewhere like that, right? If you're looking at like cost of property and lifestyle.
Yeah. Lifestyle, yeah.
Yeah. So my mom was a dentist and oral surgeon, but it's not a transferable qualification to the States.
Really?
Yes. So even though she'd spent 7 years at university, she couldn't practice dentistry. So she was teaching dentistry at USC, which is one of the big universities up in Los Angeles. And she was having to do like menial jobs, like be a dental receptionist or like she ended up being a PA for Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut. That was like super random.
Wow.
Like honestly, crazy stuff. So like I taught him how to play Super Nintendo.
Oh, Buzz.
Yeah.
What?
This is my random fact.
What?
I taught Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut, how to play Super Nintendo. Because I don't know if you remember the game that came out I think it was called Star Fox. And it was like NASA. They wanted to make Star Fox as close to being like a fighter pilot game as possible. So they got fighter pilots to test it out first. And Buzz Aldrin was a fighter pilot long before he was an astronaut.
Yeah.
So they wanted him to endorse it. So they said, can you please learn how to play this game? Tell us what you think about it. And he's like, I don't know how to play a game. Like, what the fuck? So me and my friend went in and like taught him and his other friend how to play it, like this other fighter pilot.
Wow.
They ended up getting in a huge fight about whether the up arrow or the down arrow should actually be up or down, because obviously it's back to front.
Reversed,
and they got in a big fight. His friends stormed out. It wasn't very productive, but it
wow. Do you remember, I want to say there was a video when someone approached him outside a shopping centre, basically saying he lied about going to the moon, and Buzz just fucking chinned him. Boom, that. Just put him on his ass. And I was like, wow, Buzz has still got it.
Well, do you know what? He's a really, really interesting man. I've met him quite a few times. He, maybe, I don't know how common knowledge it is, but he was manic depressive.
Yeah.
That only happened after he went to the moon.
Yeah.
You know, like, it was, you couldn't meet him and spend any time with him and have any doubt in your mind that he did that.
Oh, 100%.
So for all the doubters out there, you know, don't at me, but I'm telling you, like, I met him. That man has been to another planet for sure. He's amazing.
And the thing is, once you've been to the moon, where the fuck do you go after that? That
was basically the problem.
Like, you know, where'd you go, because you've been to the moon, like, and that's a big, you know, it's almost like I've achieved the pinnacle of life. what now? Like now what? And the thing is, there's probably not too many other things that you could do which we could. And I feel like that's a crossover between a lot of people who have achieved greatness, always strive for more greatness. So mountaineers who've climbed this mountain will go and climb this other mountain, and it's always that, you know, oh, what's on the horizon. And the problem is, if you run out of horizons, you know, it's like the Tiger King. You can have all the tigers in the world, but you'll never be what you really want to be. There's a great advert for America.
Carol Baskin's husband. Yeah, exactly that. And he was really active. He worked with NASA really closely. He was really passionate about the Mars project, because for him that would have been the next step, that would have been the next pinnacle. So he was a really interesting man, and he was really, really passionate about things. And he was a fighter pilot. He was bonkers. You know, that guy has he's nails. Yeah. So if someone's gonna turn around, he's only little too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't cross him. But he was such an interesting, genuinely lovely man. You know, I feel blessed to have met him.
Can you imagine if someone's going to criticize your life's work? Like, you've got to be prepared for the consequences of what comes with that, because you know, you're saying he was a fighter pilot. There's a certain mentality to get into a plane powered by a jet engine and fly around the sky and fight other human beings in the sky. Yeah,
especially in those days. It's not like it is now, where we have all of the technology. Think of how far technology has come in the decades since he was a fighter pilot as well. So he was just sticking up for himself, and I get that. You know, fair play to him.
Yeah, no,
so it was just a funny upbringing. The whole thing, my whole childhood was a little crazy. You know, I was in the most beautiful place on earth, but you know, my mom wasn't doing what she was capable of doing. Although it meant I got some really interesting experiences out of it. My dad had long since retired from being a motorcycle racer.
Yeah.
And he was an engineer. He was also in the Air Force when he was younger as an engineer. And he built custom motorcycles.
Wow.
And that was kind of his love and his calling. So when they separated, we stayed in the US for about 7 more years before my mom was just like, do you know what?
Yeah.
I can't give you the life. I'm having to work 3 jobs. I never see you. We're living in this, you know, little tiny house. I can't.
Yeah.
You know, we couldn't afford anything, and our friends were multimillionaires, billionaires. You know, so I think she just felt why am I here? I could move you back to the UK. We could be around all of my family. I could be a dentist. I could be an oral surgeon. I could give my kids a great quality of life. So as a mother now, I completely understand where she was coming from.
Selfless.
But at 14 years old, started high school. I went to Newport Harbor High. I don't know if you've ever seen that old TV show, The OC.
Right. Oh, is that it?
But that was my high school.
Wow.
So I just started there, done half of my first year there, and then she moved me to a little town called Darwen in Lancashire, which is it's just next to Blackburn. It's in between Blackburn and Bolton.
I know it. I know Darwen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Freddie Prinze Jr. didn't go Darwen. Yeah. Did he? Freddie Prinze never went to Darwen. He did not.
I don't think I mean, my face was a picture. We moved on Christmas Eve. We moved on Christmas Eve. I got here, it was gray, slushy. It had been, you know, when it's been snowing, but then it's not snowing and the snow goes gray and just dirty, slushy. It's horrible.
And Darwen is an old school mill industrial town. That whole sort of Blackburn, Bolton, that whole area it's all wool, isn't it? And that sort of industry, and probably has maybe changed quite a bit, but yeah, interesting. You must have had a face, didn't you?
For about 10 years, a slapped ass for sure. My mom was.
And what was it like? Obviously, the Lancashire accent is strong and very prominent. And then you turn up first day of school, and I bet you're I bet I bet you were a novelty. Do you know what I mean? I bet it was like, ooh, have you heard about the new girl?
Well, I'm really glad you said that because, well, it took my mom about 2 months to get me to agree to go to school.
Right.
I was digging my heels in. I was like, I'm just gonna move back to California, look after my damn self. You know, I'm gonna just, I've always been pretty like headstrong like that, so I didn't see that there was anything wrong with it. She finally got me enrolled into a school.
Yeah.
And it was on a council estate, this school in the town. It was the only school she could get me into halfway through the year.
Yeah.
And I get there and I'm in what would be year 9, I guess.
Yeah.
It made me resit the whole year because the school systems don't match.
Don't match, yeah.
I get in there. I was like a circus monkey, you know, like I was like a sideshow Bob, you know. So I get there and I've got a circle of like 50 kids stood around me, like throwing, like, talk. What's your name? Where do you come from? Say something. I just want to hear your accent. Talk to me, you know, like, and I don't, you know, I'm a girl, you're a guy, but like a 14-year-old girl just wants to be blending into the background. All you want is to be accepted by your peers.
Yeah.
You don't want to stand out. Like, especially a new girl in a new school, like you want to meet a couple of nice people. They're going to kind of take you under their wing, accept you into the tribe and slide in and get on. And I'm like, I had people turning up at my door after school. Like they followed me home from school. Like I didn't know how they knew where I lived. I opened my door the first night after my first day of school. There were 20 kids stood out on my doorstep. They're like, we just wanted to hear you talk again.
What sort of, just so I can understand it, to understand what was going on at the time, when are we talking? Like early when?
It was Christmas 93.
Right. I'm just trying to, what was happening in 93, so with the Simpsons.
Music-wise, I believe we're on about now 5.
Right, okay. So maybe
now 7, maybe.
Yeah, so basically, maybe some of the posher kids would have had Sky, so they would have had the Simpsons.
No, there was none of that yet.
No,
we didn't even have Channel 5 yet.
Oh, no, I'm just, so you were like this complete, like, wow, like you'd landed from another planet.
This was like, you know, when they had the colored lines on the BB, this is like Channel 4, like nothing played after 11:30 at night. Wow. I used to stay up at night watching snooker and darts and stuff. Like, I was like, where am I? Where, like, what? I remember watching on Channel 4 for like the first year because I refused to let myself get acclimatized to the time difference and stuff. I was so stubborn, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
So I used to stay up all night watching Elvis movies on Channel 4.
Wow. Jesus.
But yeah, that's like where we were. It was Blackburn rave scene. That's what was kicking off around here.
Wigan Pier.
Oh yeah, Wigan Pier, Monroe's, all-nighter. We were like, you know, Life, Bowlers, Manchester.
Yeah.
I mean, but I was there at 14, 15.
How long before the locals accepted you? And that's what I'll use it as.
How long did well, I ended up having to make older friends because I had a few girls in my year at school who did accept. I was very lucky. Like one of the girls in my year, this Scottish girl, Lindsay, she was one of my best friends. Like she took me in and everyone kind of followed what she said. So I got a little bit lucky that way with the girls in my year. The girls in years 10 and 11, not so much. They didn't like me very much at all. So I would say by my year group, I got accepted relatively quickly, but I also got up to no good relatively quickly to try and get accepted as quickly as possible. And because I was already feeling like I didn't want to be here and I was being very rebellious anyway, it all kind of worked out for me. Didn't work out for me, did work out for me. So I ended up making friends with like older people. And they were the ones going clubbing and going to Wigan Pier and all this, you know. And, you know, please, I'm not advocating underage drinking or going out to nightclubs. Can I just let that be said? I have a 19-year-old daughter of my own and would be absolutely mortified if I thought that that's what she was up to. So, you know, big kudos to my mom for not killing me.
Yeah.
I think she tried a couple times, but like, so I was just a bit of a nightmare as a teenager. So I just started going out, going clubbing. I still always got good grades and stuff. I was pretty good at school, even though I didn't turn up that much in my last like year. So, but yeah, just started going clubbing and I loved it. And I had a lot of older friends. They weren't crazy old, but you know, just like a bit older friends.
Wow.
Ended up going to Cream one night in Liverpool for my friend's birthday.
Yeah.
It was actually her 20th birthday and I was 17. And we went to Cream and we got a minibus. Not a minibus because it's not safe. Wasn't really safe to go out drinking in Liverpool, you know.
Really?
When you were from out of town. So we used to just get like a I couldn't wear a badge that said my mom's a Scouser and get away with it. So yeah, we got like a minibus and we went over to Cream and we'd been having a great night and we all went back to her house afterwards. And whilst I was in the house, I sat down on a chair, you know, we're having a little after party, whatever.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the armchair and the next thing I know, I wake up on the sofa.
Right.
No kind of clue what's going on. And I can hear everybody in the other room like talking. So I kind of wake up and I go in the other room and everybody just stands there and stares at me and they're all like they've seen a ghost. And I was like, what's going on? Like, what the? And they were like, so you're alive, you're okay. And I was like,
oh, wow.
And I'm like, what? And so apparently I'd been on the chair and I'd fallen off of the chair, hit my head on the table. I'd had a seizure.
Right.
In the house after our big night out. So, and I'd never had a seizure before. I was 17. So
well, I'm glad they found an ambulance for you.
Well, exactly that, you know, I mean, this is what happens when you have a bunch of young, dumb kids.
Yeah, think fast. Yeah. Getting
up to no good. I mean, like my two best, they are still my two best friends, by the way, the two girls, like the girl whose birthday it was, one of the other girls, they're like still my two best friends, believe it or not. I forgave them.
Yeah.
But they were both like trained first aiders and stuff. I think they knew that I was having a seizure. They knew I'd never had one before. And I'd stopped and they'd got me in the recovery position and they'd let me sleep it off. And then I came to and they explained everything to me.
Oh.
But this was at the time where there'd been a couple of deaths on the rave scene from people going out. And it was a very new thing. So it was scary. It was scary.
I remember the Leah Betts was the big.
It was right after Leah Betts.
Yeah, so it was a big. The rave scene was crazy, wasn't it? A bit before my little bit of time, but it looked good whenever you watch a movie and there's a bit of nostalgia. It looks like they were all having a great time, but not in that.
I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't take it back, and I wouldn't change it. We had some amazing nights, so much fun. And it was just what people did back then, you know. It's kind of, and I loved it. And when a song comes on now, I still get that little tingly feeling all over. I get all excited. Closet raver.
What was it? What was the rave song? Which one in particular?
Which one? What's my favorite?
Yeah.
Do you know? I don't know if anyone will have heard it. My favorite, I think it's called Perfect Motion. I'd have to Google who actually did it, but I absolutely loved it. I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my favorite.
and after school, how did you find getting work? Where did you go from after school into finding jobs and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, everybody wanted me to go. My family are Irish, so they're all like super overachievers, doctors, dentists. You know, if you're not a professional of that level, then you kind of. Yeah. You failed. Yeah. Like I have a cousin who was the head of IT for Barclays Bank, one who used to run all of the air traffic control for the airports in London.
Wow.
Another one who works for a big pharmaceutical company. yeah, they're all very intelligent. I was not for going to college or university at that time. Yeah. I still didn't want to be here. So I was like, I'm just going to go do my own thing, make myself a bunch of money, live by myself. I'm ready. Like, let's do this. 16 and off I go. I actually moved back to California for about 6 months. Thought I could make it out. Thought I could make it out there on my own. As soon as I finished my GCSEs, I jumped on a plane, flew back to California, got a job, started working. I was working 6-7 days a week, 12-hour days, just making money and hanging out with my friends and doing what I thought, you know, I really wanted to do. But all my friends were still at high school over there. They go to school till they're 18.
Yeah.
And they were the ones living the life I wanted. I was the one slogging my guts out, you know, 12, sometimes 14 hours a day, just to make enough money to try and live out there, you know, in a house share. So I came home after about 6 months, got a job in Darwen, started working for, I remember Crown wall paint coverings, you know, Crown paints.
Yeah.
Yep. Started working for them. Worked for them for a while, and then that's when I had the seizure when I was working for them.
Right. Yeah. Let's go into that, and because it's going to lead us where we're going to get to. You had a seizure. What do you know? What brought it on? Did you have some sort of family history with it, or what brought it on?
No, nothing like that. I had the first seizure on that night out.
Yeah.
So initially, I thought it may have been brought about by what I'd been up to that evening.
Yeah.
But let's just.
Yeah.
I always have to be really careful here. I was 17. I didn't know what I was up to. I didn't know what I was doing. But I was under the influence, and I was convinced that was the problem. Mm-hmm. So I just, in my mind, in my 17-year-old mind, thought, well, I just won't go out and do naughty things anymore. I'll just, you know, maybe this is the universe's way of telling me that enough is enough. I've gone a little too far, and I've got a bit too big for my boots. I need to get my shit together, and fine, no problem. Yeah. So I still would go out with my friends, but I was staying sober and doing my thing, and it wasn't as fun, I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't quite as fun watching everybody else like raging, and but it was nice to just still be a part of it and be with my friends. Then I had another seizure.
Right. Wow.
And then I realized, like about 6 months after the first one, I had another one. Then it became a little more apparent that this was not drug related. It wasn't drink related. There was something more sinister going on. So it took me about another 9 months to get all the scans and stuff that I needed. My mom ended up, again, in this country, she was an oral surgeon. So she was working over in Warrington and Liverpool and managed to get me in to see a neurologist. They did every kind of scan you could imagine, and then sat me down. I think I was 18, and they sat me and my mom down and just said, she has a brain tumor.
Wow.
It's in the left temporal lobe of her brain, so it's inoperable. It's right above the speech center of her brain. Now, how funny is that? Because I can literally talk forever.
I hadn't
so
noticed.
They were like, so they were like, we can't operate on her because she talks too much.
Yeah.
So they're like, it was in the left temporal lobe of my brain, right over the speech center of my brain, and they were like, it's just too dangerous. They couldn't do a biopsy.
Yeah.
Because of where it was placed. They were afraid that even doing something as simple as a biopsy would cause me to stroke out at minimum. And I was only 18, so they didn't want to risk it.
Wow. Did they give you a reason why? Any reason why it happened, or just you've got a tumor, that's it?
No, they just said that because they couldn't do the biopsy and they couldn't test the cells, they didn't know whether it was benign or whether it was malignant. They didn't know really anything about it, except they can look at it and make an educated guess as to what they think it is based on all the other tumors that they've seen.
Wow.
They were convinced that it was a low-grade tumor, which is a slow-growing tumor, but they didn't know how slow. They didn't know how long it had been there. They're like, you're 18. It could have been that you could have been born with it, and it could have taken all this time for it to grow to this size to where it's actually causing enough pressure in the brain to cause the seizures. So I didn't have epilepsy. It was just the pressure of the tumor in my brain that was causing me to have the seizures. So as the tumor grew, my seizures obviously got worse.
Yeah.
So they didn't know what, they just didn't know what they were dealing with. And they said it was too dangerous to go and investigate to find out what it was. So they wanted to leave everything well enough alone until my seizures got so bad that they had no choice but to go in and operate.
What's that like, getting that sort of news at that young age? Is there an emotion that resonates? Like, I mean, that's the ultimate life-changing news, isn't it? Like, that is like, you know what I mean? Everything else which you thought was a big deal after that kind of isn't a big deal, is it?
No, but it's really, I have a lot of, my experience of it. Sometimes I think like, maybe it's me that's weird. I don't know, like, but how I processed it, how I dealt with it, I believe is what kept me alive and why I'm still alive today.
Yeah.
Now, the diagnosis for me was you have a brain tumor in the left temporal lobe of your brain and it's inoperable. And unfortunately, even if we biopsy it, all we can really do is treat it based on the results of the biopsy, but it is going to kill you because we can't remove it. And you're just going to have to wait until it gets so big that is inevitably what kills you. And they were like, we're hoping that it grows slowly enough that you'll live to maybe 30 if you're lucky.
Wow.
But that would be a real push. We're just looking at best case scenario there. So at 18 years old, being given that information, I remember kind of looking at him and thinking like, oh, fuck. Okay. And I think I kind of like teared up a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I was just a bit like, you know what? I don't feel sick.
Yeah.
I'm all right. Like I can still do just about everything. I mean, okay, so maybe I can't go out raving and misbehaving. But other than that, like I get up every morning, I get dressed, I eat my breakfast, I go to work, I can do whatever. Like it's not impacting on me minute to minute, day to day. Like I can just get on with my life. So that's what I'm going to do. I didn't really cry about it.
Yeah.
What I will say, like on actual like reflection, is for about 6 months after diagnosis, I completely gave zero fucks about anyone or anything.
Yeah.
I quit my job and I
down
did whatever I wanted. Like I went to the pub and I played table football and went for walks and I just did whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And I was probably a little depressed and in a bit of denial or whatever. I'm sure there was all kinds of stuff going on, but I kind of just felt like, well, I don't feel sick, but this is a bit fucked up. So I'm just going to do what I want to do. Like if I'm not going to be alive in the next 10 years anyway, like why am I killing myself in a job? What am I doing? Like, forget it. So it was a very interesting time. Now as a mother with a 19-year-old daughter, that was me last year, sat in a doctor's office and he said that to me about my daughter. Like I can't even imagine what my mom was going through in that time. And you know what? At 18, I didn't care. And I know that sounds really selfish and it sounds really horrible. But I think there's an element of being 17, 18 years old where that part of your brain that like to allow your brain to develop at that age, other parts of it have to shut down. And my sense of mortality was non-existent. So I never actually, even though they told me I was going to die, I didn't believe I was going to die. And even though they told me that I was really sick, I didn't believe that I was sick. And everybody around me was like devastated, like I was dead already.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just like, I don't know what your problem is. I'm fine. Like I'm going out. You want a drink? Like, should we go get a drink? Like,
what so what was what is the outcome for this then? Like, how did you move forward? Like, was there any treatment at all? Was there anything that you could do, or nothing?
Nothing.
Just roll with the punches.
So what happened is that my seizures got progressively worse. So when I first got diagnosed, they put me on anticonvulsant medication.
Yeah.
They put me on something called sodium valproate. The actual brand name of it is Epilim. So they put me on that because I was 18 years old, and they knew it was something that had been used for decades and decades, and it was relatively safe. So they stuck me on that, and that seemed to stop. So the first 2 seizures I had were big, huge, you know, the big, where I was shaking, passed out, they used to call them grand mal seizures, but they don't call them that anymore. They have a new name for them, but I'm not up with my seizure lingo. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, the first 2 that I had were like that, and they were quite distressing. Bit through my tongue, nearly bit my tongue clean off the first time. And the second time I was in a car, had to be dragged out of the car. So they were a little bit intense. After that though, the seizures started to get more frequent, and I didn't have the big seizures where I was collapsing and going into convulsions. I used to kind of start having absences, and then I would completely black out. It's really hard to describe. I wrote a blog about it that kind of goes into it more in detail, but right where the tumor was in my brain was over the part of the brain that controls anxiety.
Right.
And the chemical that's released in the body for anxiety.
Yeah.
So every time I had a seizure, I used to have a panic attack with it.
Right. Wow.
So every time I went to have a seizure, my body used to think I was dying. All my adrenaline, everything would just start going. It was nuts.
Yeah.
I couldn't talk. It affected my speech. I still find that so ironic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a lot to take in, and sort of on the blogs. Is this why you created Blonde and Strong?
I mean, it's part of why I created it, because the brain tumor is like one of my stories.
Yeah.
But it's weirdly for me, it's only one small part of my story. Because even when I was in the midst of having the brain tumor, I was pregnant, had my daughter. My neurologist wanted to kill me. Like, he was like, you're not going to survive this pregnancy. They wanted me to have an abortion.
Wow.
They didn't want me to go through with the pregnancy. They were afraid that neither of us would survive. To be fair, I almost didn't.
Wow.
When I was 4 months pregnant, my seizures got so bad. I went into status epilepticus, and they said I had about 15 minutes before I was a complete vegetable, and they were going to have to pull the plug on me. So it's sometimes looking back, it's crazy. It is a wonder that I'm still here, that my daughter is at university now, and she isn't too impacted by all the medications. I mean, I was on the maximum doses of these anticonvulsant medications, and we found out when she was about 10 that the medication I was on actually causes developmental problems in unborn, in fetuses and things. So, I mean, it's a real minefield of all kinds of stuff that was going on. And her dad I was with him for about 6 years throughout all of that time. And he was extremely abusive. There was a lot of domestic violence. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the background. And for me, I suppose upon reflection, living in that kind of chaos, although now I couldn't tolerate it.
Yeah.
My childhood was very chaotic. So it was kind of all I knew. And then when someone tells you that you've got a brain tumor and you're going to die, and you're 18 years old, and you don't feel like you're dying, you kind of need something to distract you and take your mind off that.
Yeah.
And he definitely took my mind off it, because life was definitely about him. It wasn't really about me. So
right. Wow.
It was a big distraction. Maybe I could have chosen a you know, a healthier distraction.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think you know, my blog ended up being a way that I've been through a lot of different things in my life. I've lived a lot of different places. I've experienced a lot of highs and a lot of lows. I would like to think that my story resonates, at least some part of my story will resonate with so many people.
Yeah. Wow.
For different reasons.
And is it something like, how have you made it this far? Like, if you were supposed to only live a certain amount of time, like a guardian angel, good luck, rolled the dice, like what is it? Like, what do you put it down to?
I don't know. I mean, I've heard you say, like,
yeah,
you get to decide whether you're sick or you're not sick. And my dad absolutely lived by that. Okay, so I know you've introduced me as Shar.
Yeah.
My actual full name is Sharada.
Yeah,
and Sharada is the Hindu goddess of creative arts and knowledge.
Yeah.
And my parents both studied yoga.
Yeah.
And I got the name because of my dad. He loved the name, and it was a name that meant a lot to him within yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So I was brought up with a lot of like spirituality and that kind of belief of energy, and that you could, like, the body and the mind are connected, and that you can control both of them. And actually, if you can use the two of them together, what you can do is limitless.
I think I'm starting to be more of a believer in this sort of holistic sort of way of thinking, and holistic medicines, and it's, you know, medical science told you one thing, and you know, you've achieved so much. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to rush over certain parts of it, and we'll have to definitely come back and have a follow-up podcast. But it sounds like you've definitely, I call it championship rounds. It's the rounds where you just, like, where a boxer becomes a winner. And it's rounds sort of 8, 9, and 10 where it gets ridiculously hard, and it separates the good boxers from the great boxers. And it sounds like you've been in the championship rounds for
40 years.
for 40 years, you're still throwing hooks, going for the body.
Listen, one thing it's taken me all my life, like, to this point, to be able to look at myself and be able to look at myself honestly and assess what my, like, essence qualities are. And one thing that I know I have in spades is fearlessness. Like, it doesn't mean I don't get scared, but it means that when I get scared, I'll do what needs to be done anyway, regardless of what I have to face along the way. And as far as the brain tumor goes, you know, I got so sick in the end that they had no choice but to do the biopsies. And that was really where I got to with that. The seizures were getting so frequent. I was in a wheelchair at one point. You know, I couldn't do anything. I was having seizures every single day. My daughter was still very young. My mom took me back to California so I could say goodbye to everybody. You know, it was fucking morbid shit, man. I was like 25, you know, and we came back, and I'd already had one failed biopsy attempt. So they tried it once, it didn't work. They couldn't get a reading. They had no clue what it was, because they wanted to treat me, but they couldn't figure out how to treat me because they didn't know what it was. Then the next time I went in, and I was like, okay, just let me know. I need to know for my own sake, when I wake up, like, what am I going to look like? Am I going to be bald? Like, am I going to have look like Frankenstein? And, like, because the first time I had holes in my head, and, like,
fuck.
And he was like, I don't know. We'll just have to see when we get in there. And I woke up after the second brain surgery, and I had like 20 staples up the side of my head, and they'd like shaved under that part of my head. And 9 days later, I went back to have the staples out, and he was like, so we've got some good news for you. When I was in there, I just thought, you know what? I think I can get that out.
Wow, fucking hell, he was a maverick. Yeah.
He was a maverick. And he was like, so I just thought, fuck it, I'm gonna have a go.
Yeah.
So, and he went, you know, I did my best. I got everything I could. There may be a couple of abnormal cells that were left in there. We won't know that until it starts growing back. But what we'll do is we'll just monitor you for the next 10 years and we'll see what happens. And then he said, but I think I did get it all. I think I've got it all. I don't think you have a tumor anymore. He said, and we've tested it. It was benign. It was a meningioma. He said, and what I'm afraid to tell you is that because it was a meningioma, it was growing from the outside of the brain inwards. Oh. But they thought it was growing from the inside outwards, but it was growing from the lining of the brain in. And he went, we could have removed it like 9 years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. And I was like, he was afraid I was going to sue them.
Yeah.
Because I'd been so sick for so many years, and I just gave him a big hug. And he was like, please don't be mad at me. And I was like, why would I? You've just told me I'm going to live. Like, why would I be mad at you? Like, I'm just grateful. And what I wanted, how we started this podcast was you asked me what I love about this country. I'm alive today, not just because of the brain tumor. The NHS has saved my life more times than I care to remember.
Yeah.
And if I'd had this brain tumor in California, I would have been dead at 18 years old.
Yeah, wow.
I wouldn't have been able to afford medication. It was $100,000 for a consultation with the neurosurgeon when I first got diagnosed. My dad looked into it. So, like, just for people to understand what it's like on different sides of the pond, whatever anyone says about the NHS.
Yeah, it's a great service, yeah.
I've paid into it my whole working life from the age of 16, and it's been worth every single penny. I've had 2 brain surgeries. They've saved my life. I mean, at least 6 or 7 times. Oh, those are different podcasts, but for sure.
Yeah. We'll come back to it.
Like, the NHS have saved my life so many times, and I have so much to be grateful for that. And I genuinely do believe that I'm not going to say positive mindset, because I feel like that's a really bullshit overused statement. Sure. I wasn't positive all the time. I just didn't believe I was sick.
Yeah, no, it's a great philosophy. Wow, it's been a fucking unbelievable story, and I'm over the moon that you've come on the show and spoke very honestly and very bravely about what can only be a truly crazy fucking life-changing moment. And fair play to you for cracking on. I'm conscious of time, and I appreciate your time, but we're going to sort of look to do the 5 whats now, which is like how I like to close down the show.
Okay.
Sort of change pace a little bit. So the first one, what does your day look like? Has it changed post, pre COVID-19, or are you still just doing?
My day looks a little different because I've been put on furlough leave.
Yeah.
So, but I normally wake up at 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
I've allowed to push myself back to 6:15 now that I'm at home. So
yeah,
I get up at 6:15 every morning and I meditate for 45 minutes to an hour.
Nice.
That's not all like pure meditation. Like some of it, I have a gratitude list that I do every morning, and I do my meditation and focus on whatever my intention is for that day.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a Zoom online exercise session every single morning.
Nice.
Then I'm also in the middle of doing a course. So I then spend the rest of my time, my morning doing work on that. I get my dog out for a big I'm very lucky to have some nice hills around here. So I get him out for a walk. And then I cook and spend time with my family.
Awesome.
So yeah. And then, Scott, the Zoom chatting to friends and just trying to stay connected with everybody.
It's cool.
Listening to podcasts.
Yeah, yeah. Second one, what workouts are you doing, either mentally or physically? You've talked about yoga and meditation. Any physical workouts? Running?
Yeah, I'm a big weight nut. I love resistance training.
Oh, okay.
So I used to be a personal trainer and a nutritionist and a yoga teacher. Cool. So for me, weight training is like my absolute passion. I love it. So being in the house is a little tricky because I don't have much kit. I really just have some bands, a couple of light dumbbells and stuff. But a really dear friend of mine who I used to work with is doing like a female only weights training session every single morning for an hour. And then I run the meditation at the end of it. So so loving it. Yeah.
Third one, what have you started? Have you started anything new in lockdown? Even if it's a Netflix show, it doesn't matter. Tiger King?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I did start Tiger King. Don't tell anybody. I've started Tiger King and Ozark because I finished something else.
Boss.
Well, I actually watched Designated Survivor. I don't know if you've watched that.
Yeah,
I wasn't interested. Yeah. So, yeah, I watched that. Ozark, Tiger King. I've also started a course that I'm a good 4 weeks into, and that's really all on self-improvement, self-development, and really tapping into some feminine power.
Brilliant. Fourth one, what have you stopped doing? Going to the gym?
I've stopped going to the gym, and I've stopped I've stopped going to the gym, but I'm training at home. I've stopped working 9 hours a day in an office. And I have stopped allowing access to my life for things that no longer serve me.
Fair play. That's a good one. Fifth and final one. What's the first thing you're going to do after lockdown?
I have to be careful what I say here. I appreciate that there's a lot of people really struggling right now. Yeah. What's going on in the world is going to change the world. It's a little crazy. And there's a lot of people who are dealing with loss, grief, who are working crazy hours, suffering with illness and anxiety and all kinds of things. But I have to be honest, like for me, lockdown, I'm loving life. Like this has been the first time in my life since I had a brain tumor that I've been able to stay home with my family. I've been able to focus on the real simple things in life, and really properly live every single day, being present and connected to myself and to the people around me. And that for me has been a priceless gift. So when lockdown's over, all I really want to do is be able to continue that on outside and find a way able to use my time more wisely for helping other people, as opposed to killing myself for somebody else, I am also going to go on a massive hike because I miss that freedom. The only one thing I miss is being able to jump in my car and go somewhere and explore somewhere new. So I'll be doing a lot of that.
Awesome. Where can people find you? Where can people read your blog, etc., etc.?
Okay. They can find me on either Instagram at Shar Blonde and Strong. I think it's Shar _blonde _ and blah blah blah. Or you can check out my website, which is just www.blondeandstrong.com.
Yeah. Oh, we just lost you there. It was blondeandstrong.co.uk.
No, it's .com.
Oh, .com. Okay.
I went universal.
Yeah, no, it's the best way. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure listening to the story. I hope you've enjoyed it. Shar, thanks very much for your time. It's been brilliant speaking to you. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me, John.
Thanks for coming on the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a fantastic story. Stay strong and look forward to the next episode of the Eagle Podcast. See you later.